Hello and welcome to Hexed Encountered. My name is Joe. Today I'm going to be doing a solitaire playthrough of a two-player game. This is the British Way, counterinsurgency at the end of Empire. This is the first coin multi-pack. There are 4 games in this. They're all designed by Stephen Rangazas. And basically they all deal, obviously based on the title, you would realize they probably deal with the end of the British Empire. And so there are 4 games in here. This is the, I guess, the earliest in terms of the time it takes place, 1945 to 47. And it is Palestine, which you may recognize from the map that you're seeing right here. This is obviously now the nation of Israel. And so this was kind of how, it went from being the British colony of Palestine to the independent nation of Israel. So, oops, this needs to go up here. So you can see the whole board here. I'll probably zoom in and move around during play just to kind of, give a better look at the map, et cetera, so you can see kind of a little bit better what's going on. Obviously, the map is not that large. It's kind of a standard 17 by 22, I believe. And, it has some of the familiar things that you would recognize if you are a coin player, such as your initiative track and your actions and so on up here. We have our 4th pool for the British, our 4th pool for Irgun, which is the Jewish terrorist group, for lack of a better word. The insurgency, I guess, would be a better way to put it. So there are a few things in here that are a little different from, other coin games. You see there's a prison box up here. It's designed to play relatively quickly, maybe like a half hour to an hour or so, I would say, maybe 90 minutes at the most, depending on how long you take to decide what you're doing. They're all only two sides, 2 players. So you always will have the British, obviously, and then you'll have the insurgency forces, depending, obviously, on which games are in here. I mean, which game you're playing. There's Palestine, Malaya, Kenya, and Cyprus. Those are the 4 that you will be dealing with. I did do a first look video on the game, which kind of I talked about all 4 basically, and showed you all the different boards and so on and so forth, and gave an overview somewhat of how the game actually plays. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to attempt to play both sides to the best of my ability. There isn't any hidden information. You draw 1 event card per turn, and basically whatever side is up in the initiative will decide what they're doing. You can do a full op with a special activity, and I'll go through all of the choices for that when we start playing. You can play the event, of course, or you can do a limited op. And basically, when you look at this track, if you're the side that's on the furthest left, you get to go first in the next turn. So in theory, if, say, Irgun always goes first when you start, and then after each propaganda round, and there are 3 of those, Irgun will always go first. So if they opt to go for the full op and activity, then no matter which one of these 2 the British play, they're going to go first in the next round. So that's kind of how that works. So our blue cubes here represent British police. And the tan ones represent troops. Then on the Irgun side, you have the cylinders. Their pieces are all red. The cylinders represent cells, basically. Instead of, in other cases, they might be guerrillas in other games. In this one, they're cells, because this is more roughly akin to a terrorist organization than an organized kind of insurgency that has troops. So these are very irregular forces, essentially, small groups, etc., etc. And these discs represent their arms caches. So they don't have bases like you might have in other coin games. They have arms caches, which represent, obviously, the materials they use to carry out whatever they're doing to kind of subvert the British rule in Palestine. Down here at the bottom, we have the Haganah track. And so Haganah, there were 3 groups that were basically 3 Jewish groups that were kind of pushing for independence from Britain in Palestine and the formation of a Jewish state. Those were Irgun, which is the one we're playing as, Haganah, which is a much more moderate kind of, they want independence, but they're not so much into doing all the violent means that kill people and so on. And then Lehigh. So the player is playing as kind of a combination of Irgun and Lehigh, but it's called Irgun. And so you're trying to keep the support of Haganah, because as you do things like terrorist attacks, or you put terror in a city or an area, this might go to the left. And the further to the left it goes, the better it is for the British. And they're going to start pulling out forces. So you can lose 1 arms cache. When it goes from 4 to 3, you're going to lose 2 cells and an arms cache. When it goes from 3 to 2, you're going to lose 3 more cells. And then also the prison box, the British can put your men in prison, or put your cells in prison, which removes them permanently from the game. There are other ways to get them off the map, but they'll end up in the available box. And we'll get into the mechanics of that as well once we start playing. So, speaking of starting to play, we're going to get going here. And what we'll do first is we always draw an event card. Now, the board is set up for the scenario. On the back of our rule book here, you can see there's a map that shows you basically the setup. And inside here on the last page, you get the setup instructions that tell you where everything goes in the various areas, right? So you have 3 cities on this map: Haifa, Tel Aviv, Jaffa, and Jerusalem. You also have several areas, of course: Galilee, Haifa, Samaria, Lydda, Jerusalem, and Gaza. And there are railways that connect the areas. And so basically at the end, once you get a propaganda card, and there are 3 of them nestled inside this deck, okay, so basically you use about half the deck, maybe slightly more. And what you do is you seed, you divide them into 3 stacks of 6, and then you seed the propaganda card as one of the last 3 cards in each group of 6. Then you stack them up. You have your deck for the game. Now, there are obviously more cards. These are the cards. This is the rest of the deck, and this is the one that's not being used. So you're not going to see every event, every game, which increases replayability because you never know what you're going to get and what you're not going to get. And obviously some things benefit the insurgents and some things will benefit the British, and you don't know what kind of mix you're going to get, and you also don't know what each one will be specifically, so you'll have to kind of take them as they come. And there will be some times where you're going to have that agonizing decision of, do I play the event, or do I do an op and special activity, or just a limited op, kind of to make sure that you can do what you need to do to actually win the game. The goal of the game for the British is to keep your political will, which is measured on this track here on the right, keep it as high as possible, because you don't want it to get to 0. At the very bottom, it's 0, and it says right on the map, you might not be able to see it because the shot is zoomed out, but it says Irgun victory. So Irgun wins if we get down to 0, and that's like a sudden death event. If it hits 0, the game's over. So the British want to keep it, up here somewhere, and there are things that will move it up, and there are things that will move it down. Generally, it's going to trend down. Because that's kind of just the way it was. Things were trending in the direction of obviously independence for all of these, former crown colonies, or at the current time they were crown colonies anyway. So that's kind of the setup here, and the goal of play. British, keep it above 0, Irgun, get it to 0, gain independence for Palestine, and then you'll have the formation of Israel. So. There are intel counters that the British can get, which help them. There are curfew counters that they can play 1 in any of the cities. That will help them as well. The Irgun will play sabotage counters, which can become terror counters. Terror is like sabotage is like level 1, and then terror is the next level up in terms of effectiveness and things they do. But it also can have a negative effect on your Haganah track. And once that gets moving this way, things will get much more difficult for Irgun. So basically, the British are going to try to put as many of the Irgun cells in prison and, kind of weather the storm, hope they do some terror that'll knock their Haganah track down and make it harder for them, because as the Haganah track decreases, their available forces will decrease as well. And if you can get them in here and in there, then they have less to work with, and it makes it a little easier for the British to hold on long enough to win the game, because you only go through basically 18 events to get through the game. So we're going to go until we hit a propaganda round. When you hit a propaganda round, you do some scoring, which adjusts the track, and then you go back right into the game again. So let's get started. We're going to draw our first card, and it is Accra Prison Break. So prisoners sent to Eritrea, remove up to 2 cells in prison from the game. So that is the event, right? So Ergun has the first choice. So we don't have anybody in prison, so there's no need for them to play the event, because you can see on the bottom, mass escape, move all cells in prison to available. So basically this would be an event that benefits the British. This would be the event that would benefit Ergun. But in effect, it doesn't benefit anybody, because neither side is going to be able to use that. So we're going to say that Ergun is going to do an op and special activity. And so now you have to decide what you want to do. So they have here on this card a group of activities, right? So here are our operations, and here are our special activities. You can only do these if you do a full op, and they are paired up in many cases with something here. Like if you recruit, you can do silence or propagandize. Travel, you can do silence or propagandize. Sabotage, you can do any. And then rob, which it adds arms caches, and this is something that's new, which Stephen admits he kind of stole from Fred Serval's upcoming Guest of Robin Hood game. So that can be paired with silence or propagandize. So you have your 3 here. These two kind of go hand in hand, so to speak, and the only one that can actually give you this special activity is sabotage, because you can see that's any. These two are can only use these 2 special activities. Then at the bottom, you can see how you lower political will. On the British side, which is this side, you can see how you can raise political will by doing things during the campaign and during the propaganda rounds. So that is your player aid card, and that will obviously indicate how you do things in the game. Okay, so I zoomed in a little bit, only because we're going to be doing things that are going to cover a lot of different places on the map. So Ergun is going to go. They've chosen the special, or the full op with a special activity. The op will be sabotage, and the special activity that goes with it is terror. So we're gonna go hard right away. Okay. So here you see, and the key, one of the key things to understand in this game is what all of these do. So if you just read through it, explains pretty well what's going to happen, right? So you can the purpose is to place sabotage markers, which are these guys right here, right? On the other side is a terror marker. So what we're going to do is we can select up to 3 spaces that have underground cells. So any cell here that's flipped to the non-star side. The star side is not underground, active and known, right? So in each selected space, activate 1 underground cell and roll a die, subtracting 1 for each police in the space and adding 2 if an arms cache in or adjacent to the space is removed. If the result is greater than 2, place a sabotage marker in the space. Okay, so a couple of things here. Down here at the very bottom, and I zoomed in a little bit so you can't really see it all that well, but we have the coordinate action because we're at 4. The coordinate says, at coordinate, Ergun may add an additional space to any operation or limited operation. So that means we get 4. We could spend an arms cache to make it 5. We could also spend an arms cache to, as you saw in there, to add 2 to the roll. I'm not going to do either one of those. I'm going to do 4. So I'm going to do 4 spaces. So I'm going to activate the 4 places I'm going to do it. And that will be Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Haifa, and let's do Jerusalem. Not the city, but the area. So those are our 4 places. So in 3 of them, the 3 cities all have 1 police. So we're going to have a die roll modifier of -1 in those places. Okay, I'm going to go for terror in Jerusalem. When you roll for terror, it's a little bit different. I'll explain that when we do it. We'll roll north to south. So I'll do Haifa, Tel Aviv, then the Jerusalem area, and then Jerusalem city. So we'll do it that way. So we roll one die, red. Oh my goodness. Red for the Irgun, and I'll roll blue when I'm rolling for the British. So we're going to roll. We need a 2 or greater after subtracting 1. I'm not a 2 or greater, a 3 or greater after subtracting 1. So that's a fail here in Haifa. Tel Aviv, also a fail. Jerusalem area, a 4. Okay, so that one worked, and we place a sabotage in here. Okay, so now in Jerusalem, we're going to do terror. So terror, purpose, place terror markers, accompanying op, sabotage. One city selected for sabotage, so that's going to be Jerusalem. Roll for sabotage, but instead place a terror marker if successful. If modified roll is 6 or greater, place 2 terror markers and shift Haganah track ones to the left. We can't get a 6 because we have a police here, so that's going to make our maximum roll a 5, even if I do roll a 6. So we're going to roll, and we got a 2, which is nothing anyway, so they don't even get to place a sabotage marker. So we went 1 for 4, which is pretty bad. Since you basically have a better than 50% chance of rolling a 3 or higher on a 6-sided die, and we didn't do it. You get a 4, that's what, a 4 out of 6 chance. So yeah, not great at all. Actually, no, it was a 50-50 chance because I needed to roll a 4 to get, which would be a modified 3. So yeah, never mind. All right, so they're done. Now we flip it over to the British. Now they have here again, and I mentioned this briefly a moment ago, their event here doesn't do us any good. So we don't have any cells in prison at the moment. So they're going to not be able to do that, which leaves them with the limited op. Okay, now the British operations are a little different. So they have deploy, patrol, search, and assault. Okay, so some things that I would consider as the British player here is that because it's a limited op, we're going to go first in the next round. So it's basically an attempt to double up. So it's only a limited op, which means we can only do one thing in one space, basically. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to do a deploy, which allows me to place police and reposition troops, right? So I can place a police in any selected space and then may move any troops to any one space. So I'm going to place the police here in Tel Aviv, and I'm going to move my troops, because it doesn't have to be the same space. I'm going to move my troops here into the Jerusalem district because I'm setting myself up to do things in my next turn. So that would be the end of this turn or round, and we basically move these back down. Okay, so the next thing we do is draw our next event card. We get martial law. Okay, it says extensive searches. British may search in up to 2 cities, then mass detention. And for the Irgun, it would be Anger's populace, place up to 1 cell in each city with a curfew. Nobody has a curfew right now, so Irgun, again, won't be able to do anything. But the British could do this event, and they get to go first. They may search in up to 2 cities and then mass detention. So search, see, now this would be a better one to get when Irgun has gone first. So it would have been better to get this card on the last turn because that would have been ideal. But the way search works is you move some troops that will activate cells and then you place a curfew. Okay, so if it's in a city, of course. So you can search in up to 2 cities, right, which would let us do a search like, say, here and here, right, in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and then send those guys to prison. I was going to do that anyway. That was actually going to be my my action, but I was going to do it as a special, as an ops, so that I can use a special activity as well. So we are going to do the search, but we're going to do it as a full op, and we're going to move our troops, activate cells, and place curfew. Right, so may move any troops into adjacent. I'm not moving any troops, I don't think. I think I'm okay troop-wise. From the British side, you have to react to the Irgun, and I'm trying to only think about what the British would do here. I'm not trying to think about Irgun. I'll think about them when we flip back to their turn. So I'm going to do patrol. and then maybe do negotiate to see if I can shift the Haganah track. So move police and remove cells to prison. May move any police to any destination spaces. Then in one destination space, remove one active cell to prison per police. So I guess I'll do Tel Aviv, and we're going to take this guy and we're going to put him in prison. Okay. Now, I didn't move any police because I don't feel like I need to. And now we're going to do negotiate. And negotiate will shift the Haganah track or gain intel. Okay, so intel is kind of like a buff for the British where you can use that to kind of improve your chances at accomplishing certain things here on the chart. So what we're going to do is, since we did a patrol, that's the accompanying op, so that's good. Location Haganah track, which is down here at the bottom. So we're trying to move it to the left, right? So the way this works is we roll a die and add 1 for each terror marker on the map. There aren't any. If the die roll is greater than the Haganah track value, shift once to the left. Okay, so we need to roll high here because the Haganah track is on a 4, so we're going to roll a 3. So it failed, but it was worth the chance, right? So now we go over to Irgun. They're going to do a limited op because they don't have, they don't have anything that would benefit from this because they don't have any. There are no curfews at the moment. British have not placed any curfews in any cities yet. So basically the only thing that's really happened is we have 1 sabotage marker and 1 cell in prison. So now Irgun will go and they will try to do, we could do sabotage again, but they have to be underground, which we don't have any of those in cities anymore. So I could only do that out in the districts. So what I'm going to do instead is recruit. Since it's a limited op, we're going to do a recruit. So it says up to 3 spaces. In this case, it'll be 1, but actually 2 because we still have coordinate with Haganah. So we've got two places where we can place up to 2 cells in spaces with or adjacent to arms caches, or 1 in cities without or not adjacent to arms caches. So the only city that qualifies is Haifa. And as far as the 2, we have arms caches here and here. So we can do in here, obviously, but also adjacent ones. So that would be this one and this one. And we can pick 2. Now, if we put them in here, we get 2. If we put them in Haifa, we get 1. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to put 1 in Haifa, underground. And I'm going to put 2 in Lydda as well. Okay? And that'll end their turn. So now they're going to be first eligible, and the British will be second eligible. So we, again, draw a card. We get Exodus Affair, crackdown on immigration, remove all cells from coastal districts with troops to prison. So that would be the British event. The Irgun event, rather, would be Britain disgraced, lower political will by 3. Now, see, this is a tough one because in a way, if we do this, then the interesting thing here is that this event, they could lose a couple cells if, like they can lose the cells here in Haifa. They don't have any in Tel Aviv, so they could also lose the cell in Galilee. So I think I'm going to opt to play the event as Irgun, and we're going to play Britain disgraced, lower political will by 3. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. Okay? Because the goal is to get it to 0, and that knocks it down by 3. And since our sabotage failed so miserably on the first round, this makes more sense to me to do that. It also prevents the British from being able to play the coastal district cells to prison. So now the British, the downside is the British can now elect to play a full op and special activity, which of course they will. Why not? Okay, so what I am going to do is I'm going to actually do a limited op. And the reason why is I'm going to try and get rid of this active cell here. And then I can double up and do the full op on the next turn. Or if the event card is something I like, I can play that. So we are going to, again, do a patrol by moving police and removing cells to prison. So we can only do in one space because it's limited. So I'm going to do it in Jerusalem, and I don't need to move any police. And since he's not underground, he just gets removed. So prison. And so now we would move this back down, draw our next event card, Operation Shark, crackdown on Irgun, search then assault in one city, remove an arms cache within one space of the city, +1 political will if an arms cache removed. And then for Irgun it would be leaders slip through net, travel up to 2 spaces with cells and curfew. So search then assault in one city. Okay, so I have decided that I'm going to do a deploy as a full ops with special activity. So I'm going to do a deploy and then a negotiate, or not negotiate, restore, to get rid of that sabotage marker. So we can, with deploy, you can place police and reposition troops. So I can do up to 3 districts or cities with more troops than Irgun pieces. Place 1 police in each selected space. So I only have 2. So I'm going to put 1 here in Jerusalem district, and I'm going to put 1, I think, in we'll put 1 up here in Haifa. Actually, no, I can't do that. We'll put it here in Samaria. All right, so we've done that. Now we can move any troops to any one space. Okay, so we're going to move our troops from Galilee to Haifa. All right, so we're going to do negotiate. Shift Haganah track or gain intel, which is impossible because you can only gain intel if the Haganah track's on 0, which it's not, it's on 4. So I have to roll higher than a 4. We get a 6. Hey, all right. So now that's important. So we move this down. Let me reset the shot here so you can see this. Okay, so we're looking in this area right here. So you can see underneath we have our cylinder, 2 cylinder spaces and an arms cache. So we're going to take those from their available forces. 1 arms cache and 2 available are now removed because they are no longer coordinating with Haganah, which is important because when that removes their extra space when they're doing an operation. Even in a limited operation, they were getting 2. Now they're back to getting just 1. Now, if we can get it down to 2, where Haganah will be neutral, we would remove 3 more. They only have 1 here, so the other 2 would have to come off the map. So that's important as well. So that's a good one for the British, and that's going to end their turn. And now the Irgun will have the opportunity, and before I reset the shot, we'll just look at the card again. Travel from up to 2 spaces with cells and curfew. We don't have any curfews, so they can't play the event, which means they will be playing the limited op. So let me reset my shot back, and then we'll go and show what their limited op is going to be. So I think I'll keep it like this. It's a little zoomed in. We can see Gaza. You can't see the name of Gaza, and you can't see the cards. So I'll show the cards and then put them down. You can't see the Haganah track, but we know it's at 3 right now, which doesn't have any benefit to either side. So it's basically in a state where it's not going to impact the game. Now the prison section is a little bit hidden as well, but we have two blocks up there, so you can see those at the very top, and you can see a little bit tighter shot of everything else. So we'll go with this for a little while, and then I can always adjust as we need to. All right, so they're going to take the limited op, and now we just need to figure out what that limited op is going to be because they can only do it in one place. So maybe what we should do is do a travel. In a limited op, so here's travel, okay? Move cells up to 3 origin spaces with cells. It becomes 1 with a limited op. Cells may move from origin space to any spaces if destination is a railway or has a curfew marker, and if cells moving from one origin plus cubes there exceed 3, activate those moving cells. Otherwise, flip all moving cells underground. So that's the key part. So we're getting close to a propaganda round because we've played now 4 event cards. So we are in propaganda round area now because it's somewhere in the last 2 cards out of the 6 in each section. So let's travel. Travel will let us move from only 1 space here in a limited op, but we can move multiple from one area. We have 3 cells here in Tel Aviv. So here's the thing. Okay, I can move this guy and flip him back underground, which makes it harder for the British to remove him, of course. Or I can elect to do something with these three, such as moving one into Tel Aviv and one into Jerusalem, and maybe put one on a railway somewhere. So it's kind of a, you know, what do you want to do? So I'm going to elect to actually do that. I think it's more important to move three than to move just one. So we're going to put one back in Tel Aviv. We're going to put one back in Jerusalem. And I think I'll take this guy, and I'm just going to put him on the railway here between Tel Aviv and Egypt, but still in Lydda. Although I could move him here. But I kind of like him in here. And it really doesn't matter all that much. So I'm just going to put him on the railway right here. And that will end that round, and we will go back to the next round and draw another card, and we'll see if it's a propaganda card, which it might be. And it is. So we only got 4 cards that time. So now we have to conduct our political will step and then check for victory. Okay, nobody's going to win. I can tell you that much right now. But if neither player won the last propaganda card, if neither player won nor the last propaganda card, continue propaganda round. Okay, so we're going to conduct our political will step. So let me grab the propaganda card here. Okay, so this is the propaganda round. We're going to do the political will, then we'll check for victory, then we'll do the other pieces, right? Okay, so disorder, lower political will by 1 for each. So first of all, here's an important note. You have to determine the net of all of these, okay? So you don't move it up and down. You kind of figure out what it is, and then you adjust it. So we lower political will by 1 for each sabotage marker in districts. We know there's 1 sabotage marker, and it's in a district. There's nothing else. So the rest of this doesn't matter. So we now are at a -1. Increase political will if by 2 if no railways have sabotage markers, which is true. So now we're at a +1. And by 1 for each city without any sabotage or terror markers. So now that's going to add 3. So we're now at a +4. If Irgun have met there, yeah, they have not. So it's going to go up by 4, it looks like. It's not the final propaganda. So basically, we're going to continue down here. Resources. Irgun may rob in one district or city with more cells than police. Okay, so looking at our map, they have a cell in Gaza with nothing. Here, they're down, down, down. So they can do this in Gaza and Galilee, but only in one. So is it more important to put one in Galilee, or is it more important to put one in Gaza? I'm going to go with Galilee. Okay. British intel. British draw 1 intel chit if they have none. Otherwise, British discard half round down of their intel chits. Okay, so here in this cup, we have intel chits. We're going to pull one out. And it's a 2, which is actually a pretty good one. So we'll put that here. Okay. And we'll talk about that in a bit. Then we have Haganah cooperation. If Haganah is at 0, it's not. If Haganah is at 4, it's not. So no effect from Haganah. Redeploy. British may move police to railways in any spaces with British pieces. Then may move troops to any cities or railways. All right, so we're going to we'll put a police here. And they may move troops into cities if they wish to. Actually, I think I'm okay with where my troops are. I'll put this police here on this railway. Irgun may move 1 cell to each city without a curfew. Then may move 1 arms cache to any district or city with a cell. We'll take the Galilee arms cache and drop it in Haifa. I think I'm okay with Lydda and Jerusalem being the other 2 places. They can move a cell to a city. I'm not really sure if we need to do that or not. I think I'm okay with what I've got. All right, so then we do reset. Remove all curfew, sabotage, terror markers, return half round down of cells in prison to available. So they're going to get 1 of these back. Right? This guy goes flipped back underground. This goes away. Set Ergun to first eligible and British to second eligible. That's where they are. Reveal the next card and continue play. So we are moving on. I actually forgot to add 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're actually higher than they were before, and they're actually not visible right now. They're on 19. Okay, but so we'll leave that there for now. This guy also gets flipped to underground. United Resistance Movement. Cooperation falls apart. Shift Haganah track 1 step to the left. Remove up to 2 cells to available. That's a good event for the British. Offensive against railways. Shift Haganah track 1 step to the right. May perform sabotage at each railway. So the Ergun is going to play the event here. So we're going to move our Haganah track back to coordinate, which gives them 2 additional forces and another arms cache as well. And then you can now perform sabotage on each railway. We're going to activate this guy. And we're going to roll. We're going to roll for it. But I'm going to actually expend this arms cache. I'm going to spend it, which will give me a +2. We'll take a -1 for the police being there. And we'll roll our die. And get a 1. Okay, so a 1 plus a 1 is a 2, and it needs to be higher than a 2. So again, they fail. This result has come up an awful lot for Ergun in this game. I mean, that's a lot. I'm sorry. So not great for them. And yeah, so they actually played the event, which now gives the British the opportunity to play a full turn. Okay, so the British will do full. So they're going to do a search and a mass detention. Okay, so here's how search. We've already done search before, but we're going to do in a city, place a curfew marker if none, and activate 1 cell for every 3 cubes, or discard 1 intel chit to activate 1 cell per cube and place no curfew. So first of all, I'm going to do Jerusalem, and I'm going to move 1 in from the district into the city, which will activate this guy. And this will be where the mass detention is going to take place. So there is going to get a curfew marker as well. Up here, I'm not going to move any forces in, and I'm going to spend my intel chit. I'm going to discard it, and that will allow me to activate both of these guys and not place a curfew marker. And then the third one I'm going to do is going to be here in Haifa. We're going to activate this guy, and that's it. So that's my 3 spots. Now to do the mass detention, which is here. Okay, so mass detention, remove cells from city and adjacent district. All right, so we're going to roll our die, and if I roll a 2, I get to remove both of these. If I roll a higher than a 2, which is likely, then I'll be moving my political will down for every excess point, basically. So I'm going to take our blue die, and we rolled a 4. So that will remove these. 1 goes to available. Oh, wait, no, they both go to prison. Sorry. Both go to prison. This stays in curfew, and the political will comes down by 2. So we're at 17 now. So now we reset. We go to the next card, Operation Agatha, Black Saturday. British search in 1 city, then mass detention there. Shift Haganah track 1 step to the left. Arrest moderate leaders, shift Haganah track to the right. If it's now 4, Ergun may perform sabotage in 1 space. This is a hard call here. This is tough. This is real tough. I think what we're going to do is sabotage because we need to score some points here. So we're going to do a sabotage full. We're going to do a full op. So we're going to do a travel. And then we'll do we'll probably do a silence, I think, to remove a police. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to travel. We can pick up to 3 spaces that don't have, or actually 3 spaces with cells. So cells can move from there to any spaces, right? So we're going to travel this guy. So this is 1 space, and put him on the railway. and go back underground. We're going to travel this guy, put him back underground, and we'll put him here on that railway. We'll travel this guy and put him here. So that's still two spaces. This one and this one. I get one more. Now we're going to take this one here, and we'll put him underground on that railway. So that's 3. And now for our special activity, we'll do a silence. And so if you have the equal amount of underground cells and police, you can remove the police. So we'll do that here in Tel Aviv, and we're just going to pull... Actually, no, we'll do it up here in Haifa, and we're going to pull this guy out, and he goes back to the available. That is their move. Now the British... We're going to actually do the event to shift Haganah back to the right. So that is going to be this here. Black Saturday, British search in one city, then mass detention, shift Haganah, track 1 step to the left. So they're going to search here in Tel Aviv. They're going to flip this guy over. Actually, we'll do it in Haifa, and we're going to move 1 troop in here, which will activate this guy. Activates him. We put a curfew marker here, and we do mass detention, and mass detention again removes a die roll. Okay, so we're going to roll. We rolled a 2, so that's good because it only moves us down by 1. This guy goes to prison, and our Haganah track goes back to 3, which again will remove 2 of the cells and 1 of the arms caches from the pool. And that is the end of that. And now we go to the next turn. We pull our next card. Ernest Bevin, Foreign Secretary, lower the political will loss from all starred events by 1. Okay, so here's this Ernest Bevin card. So Foreign Secretary, lower the political will loss from all starred events by 1. And then British capability, declining great power, British operations limited up to 2 rather than 3 spaces. So here's the tricky part. The British get to go first. Okay, so they can take this and play it as the event, which will lower the political will loss from all start events by 1, or they can have the declining great power, British operations limited to 2 rather than 3 spaces. So obviously there's a part of this that kind of benefits the British, and there's a part of it that kind of benefits the Irgun. So from the British side, we're not going to play this as an event. If the Irgun want to waste their turn, so to speak, by playing that to limit the British to 2 ops instead of 3, they can do so. The political will track is working in the British's favor right now, so I am not going to use that for that. We are going to do an op and special activity instead to try and press the advantage that we currently have in these places. So what we would like to do, I suppose, is they're going to go with a deploy, and then we're going to do a restore. And so we're going to deploy our police into Haifa. And then we can move troops to 1 space. Okay, so we're going to move, it says we can move any troops. So we're going to move 1 from Jerusalem to this rail. And we're going to move the other one from the Jerusalem district to it as well. And then we'll do a restore. So we can have the restore removes curfew, sabotage, and terror markers. Here, it says right here. It goes with deploy. You can remove, it works with 1 space with troops, police, and no Irgun. So we can do it here, and we can do it here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it from here. So that'll get 1 of the curfews lifted. So now we go to the Irgun, and, you know, as tempting as it is to use this British capability to play that and force it to be active for the rest of the game, which would limit the British to 2 ops, I think it's more important for the Irgun to actually do some sabotage here. So they only have a limited op. Their limited op will be sabotage. Okay, so they're going for sabotage. They're going for sabotage in Tel Aviv. So they're going to flip this guy over. They're going to roll one die. And they roll a 2, which gets modified to a 1. And they get nothing. So that was a complete waste. So now we get to go back, and they'll get to go first. So they get to double up here. So they're going to do it again. They're going to do sabotage again with I guess they won't do terror because we don't have anybody in a city that we can do, because Haifa's nothing, Tel Aviv, he's already active, and Jerusalem has nothing. So we are going to do Lydda. We're going for railways. Haifa, Galilee. All 3 of them. I need to draw a card, which I forgot to do. Intelligence gathering. Gain 1 intel chit for each space with both police and cells for the British. Headquarters targeted. Irgun may perform sabotage in 1 space with police and remove any police there if successful. So I believe to do sabotage, you have to be underground, and that's not underground. And that is the only place where we have police and a cell. So, as I said before, when I was kind of caught up in the moment, we're going to sabotage here, here, and here. 3 railways. So let's start with Lydda. There's no police, so we don't adjust their die roll. And they rolled a 2, which is terrible. All right, so that one's nothing. Now let's do Haifa Railroad, Haifa District Railroad. Hey, it's a 6. All right, it's a 6. That gets a sabotage marker. All right, now we'll do the Galilee Railway, and that gets a 5. All right, so things may be turning around here. So they get a sabotage marker there as well. Okay, that's better. So now they did a full op. The special ability that goes with sabotage can be anything. So we could do a propagandize. But we don't have a space that has a cell. We can't do this because we're not in a city. We can't do this because we don't have any cells with a curfew marker. And then remove police, 1 space with an equal or greater number of underground cells than police. And again, we don't have it, so they can't do it. So we're not doing a special activity. So now the British, if we look back at our event, they have intelligence gathering. So if we have any spaces with police and cells, which we do, we can gain an intel chit. You know what? I'm going to play it for the event. So I am going to play it for the event. We're going to do this. We're going to gain 1 intel chit for this spot right here. So draw an intel chit. We get an intel 1. Intel 1. All right. Now we go back here. The British get to go again. We draw another card. Weapons factories. If Irgun sabotage rolls a 1, remove the activated cell to available. Irgun capability, her homemade innovation. Rob always places an arms cache, no roll. So there's a good and a bad, right? There's a good and a bad here, just like there was on the other one. The good is if they roll a 1, they remove the cell. But this Rob, we haven't actually done a Rob, but the British are not going to play that event. They are going to play op and special activity. And what they will do is they're going to do a patrol, I think, is what we will do. We'll do a patrol, and we'll do one here. We'll do one here. That's 2. And we'll do one here. Okay. And then we'll do a negotiate as well. So for the patrol, remove police and remove cells to prison. Up to 3 destination spaces with cells may move any police to any destination space. Then in one destination space, remove one active cell to prison per police. So we will remove the Tel Aviv one. And we've got these other two kind of in position now with these cells. This one has done sabotage. This one has not. And I might be able to get rid of them next on a future turn. And then with negotiate, we're going to roll, and for each terror marker, which there are none, we would add 1. So we're just trying to roll higher than a 3. So we're going to roll our die, and we got a 3, so that does not move the marker. All right, didn't move the marker. Okay, so now Ergun can play for this and get this. Okay, so we are going to again do a sabotage limited action, limited op, and we will do it in Galilee. And we will roll our die and roll a 2, of which of course does nothing for us. So that's outstanding, as always. So that ends that round, and we go to the next. The 6th Airborne. So this was the British 6th Airborne Division, which took part in Operation Market Garden. So it says, for the British seasoned veterans, assault removes 1 Irgun piece per troop. That's pretty nice. British capability, cells avoid, evade capture, assault and mass detention, remove all cells to available. So the British don't get to go first, and the Irgun are not going to play this event because it would not do them any good at all. So they're going to do a special activity. They are going to do a recruit. So they're going to do a recruit, place cells up to 3 spaces without curfew markers. Okay. Place up to 2 cells in spaces with or adjacent to arms caches, or 1 cell in cities without or not adjacent to arms caches. So I think what we will do, we only have 2 cells actually available to us right now. We're going to put 2 in Tel Aviv, I think. Okay, so we have 2 now in Tel Aviv, and with that we can do silence or propagandize. So we're going to do a silence, and we're going to remove our police here in Tel Aviv. Get rid of that. Now the British are going to play the event. So they're going to get this 6th Airborne, and that's going to give them abilities, but basically they're not going to actually get anything done this turn. So I'm just going to put it kind of here, I guess, next to the British, off to the side of the Tel Aviv there, and we go back to here. Now because of that, they get to actually go first this time, and we get Peter Bergson. Peter Bergson removes 2 arm caches from map to available and gains no political will, or American fundraising, place up to 2 arms caches total in any spaces with cells. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play this event as well. I'm going to remove these 2 cells and put them back in available, or 2 arms caches rather. We'll go over to, so he played the event, which allows them to go for the full op. And for their full op, let's see, what do we want to do here? We're going to do a travel because we have to move some of our, flip some of our cells back to being, unknown, basically, underground. So move cells up to 3 origin spaces with cells. Cells may move from origin spaces to any spaces if any destination is a railway or has a curfew marker, and if cells moving from 1 origin plus cubes there exceed 3. I think I screwed this up. I might have moved some stuff on railways and didn't flip them. So you're supposed to activate any of those cells, and otherwise they all flip underground. So we're going to move this guy from here to Haifa. That's 1. We're going to move this guy from here to this railway. And that means he stays. Do I want to do that? You know what? Let's move him to Jerusalem. Move him here. And then we'll move this one from here into Jerusalem, and he stays revealed because he's moving into a city with a curfew marker. Okay, and then for our, we can do silence or propagandize. Oh, we can't do this, so we're good. We'll just do a silence again. So we can remove a police from somewhere that has a cell. So we can remove a police here from Jerusalem or Haifa. Let's do it from Haifa. So we'll remove that from Haifa. Okay, and that's going to end that turn. Now we will flip the next card, and it is a propaganda card. So this is the end of the second one. So these cards here are all that's left, this little bit, are all that's left in the game. So again, we go to our propaganda round, which is over here. I picked up the wrong card, so we got to do political will first. Disorder. Okay, so we lower it by 1 for each sabotage in districts, 2 for each railway with 1, and 2 for each in cities. So we do have some out here now. We have 1 here in Galilee on the railway and 1 in Haifa on the railway. That's going to be a -4. So we have a -4. Then we don't get a +2. And we do get a +3 for each city without anyone. So none of the 3 cities have one. So now we're at a -1. Okay, nobody's at an automatic victory. We're not in the final propaganda. Irgun may rob in one district or city with more cells than police. So that would be Haifa, Tel Aviv. So we're going to rob in, let's do Tel Aviv. All right. British draw 1 intel chit if they have none. Otherwise, British discard half, round down. So they do have one. They're not going to discard it because you round down from 0.5, that's 0. So they're not going to discard. They still have their 1. Haganah cooperation. If Haganah is at 0, which it's not, they draw an intel chit. If it's at 4, which it's not, Irgun may place 1 arms cache. British may move police to railways and any spaces with British pieces. Then may move troops to any cities or railways. So we can move police. So we're going to put a police here in Tel Aviv. We're going to put a police here in Haifa. We're going to put a second police in Tel Aviv. May move troops. We're going to leave, well, let's put these guys here. Let's move, well, no, that's it. I think that's all we'll do. And then we have to remove curfew, sabotage, and terror markers, return half of the cells in prison to available, flip all cells underground, set Irgun to first available. And we did have a -1, so we're going to move that down too. All right, so political will still 15. They're at a net -3, basically, since we started the game, which is not great from the Irgun standpoint. So we're going to start our next round here. We get Jewish agency. Cooperate or, come on. Cooperate or condemn terror. Shift Haganah's track 1 step in either direction. Then Irgun may conduct a limited operation or British may draw an intel chit. So Irgun goes first. They're going to play this and do a limited operation. So they're going to go to the event. So they're going to shift the track back to 4. Which gives them back 2 more cells and an arms cache, and they can conduct a limited op. We're gonna do a sabotage here, I think, is what we will do. So we're gonna do a sabotage here. So we'll flip one of these to active. We'll spend our arms cache to give us a +2 on the die roll because God knows we need it. And they lose. They do lose 2, so that wipes out the police thing. So basically, we just need to roll a 3 or better. And we rolled a 6. So we do get a sabotage here in Tel Aviv. And so now it's the British turn. They'll go for the full op. They're going to do a search. Okay, so we can move troops. but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do a search in all 3 cities. Place a curfew marker. So we're going to place a curfew marker. And I'm going to flip this guy to active. And because we have 4 cubes here, so you need 3. Then we're going to do the same thing here. We have 4 cubes and 1 inactive or underground. So now that one's also active. And we're going to do the same thing in Jerusalem as well. And both of these will also get, of course, curfew counters. Okay, and now we're going to do a mass detention. So mass detention, 1 city with curfew marker and at least 3 troops. So we have 3 troops up here. So remove a die roll of Irgun cells. There's only 1. So I'm risking my political will here, but we need, I want to, get these guys. So it's a 4. So that's going to cost us 3. 1, 2, 3, down to 12. But we are going to remove this guy. So that's going to end that one. We go back to the next card here, Alan Cunningham. So restrained approach. British may conduct 2 limited operations, then restore. Cells released. British must place 2 cells from prison into any cities. Do the Irgun want to play this for the event? Yeah, I think they do. I think they do. So they're going to play this for the event, which is cells released. British must place 2 cells from prison into any cities. They're not going to come back as activated. They're going to come back underground. So we're going to put 1 in Haifa, and we'll put the other one in Jerusalem. All right, so they played the event, which allows the British to now play the op, full op. Okay, so we're going to actually play the patrol and negotiate. So with the patrol, we can move police and remove 3 cells to prison. I'm going to use my intel chit as well. So it is a 1, and I'm going to use it here, which will allow me to remove this one. And then we have 2 police and 2 revealed activated cells. So they're both going to prison. And then we're going to do, here we have 1 and 1. So that one's going to go to prison as well. So kind of cleaning house here. We've got 6 of their cells in prison. And now we'll do a negotiate, which will let us roll to try and get this Haganah track back down because it's at 4 again. So we're going to roll our British die here. And we get a 2, which won't do it. So that's not going to do it for us. And that is the end of that. We go back. We pull our next card. King David Hotel. Famous terrorist attack. Widespread condemnation. Remove 1 terror marker from the map to shift Haganah track 1 step to the left. There are no markers. Horrific terror attack. Place 2 terror markers in 1 city with an underground cell. Guess what? Jerusalem has an underground cell. So the Irgun are going to play this event, and they're going to put 2 terror markers in Jerusalem. It's going to put 2 terror markers in Jerusalem, which is a big move for Irgun. And now we're going to have the British play a special ops here to try and do something to get rid of some of this stuff. So what we need to do is, they don't have an intel marker anymore. What they need to do is flip some of these active. Okay, so they're going to play. They're actually going to play. No, you know what? We are going to play the full op. We are going to play the full op. So what we're going to do is a search, and we're going to move troops. Now we have 3 cubes here, so this will be one of them, and they're going to activate this guy. Okay. And then on this side, we'll, let's see, we're going to move, we could move these guys. Yeah, we'll do it here, and that'll activate him. We'll do it here and activate him. So those are our 3 searches, and then we can do a mass detention, or we'll do a, we can't do a restore, unfortunately. I could have done a restore if I had done a deploy action, but I did not. So We'll get that next time, maybe, hopefully. So we're going to do a mass detention, and we're going to do it in a city with, we don't have three troops there. So we'll do a negotiate. So we're going to do a negotiate again. Roll a die, add 1 for each terror marker. So there are 2 now. So I really only need to roll a 3. We get a 6. So that's going to move this back. And that's going to, again, take 2 cells away. And 1, whoops. And 1 of the arms caches. All right. Okay. So we go reset. Pull the next card. Rome Embassy Bombing. Plot foiled. Remove up to 2 cells and 1 arms cache to available. +1 political will if the arms caches. They don't even have any arms caches anymore. International attacks. Roll a die and low political will by 2 if the result is greater than 2. Let's do that. Let's do that. And you get a 5, so that's going to lower the political will by 2. So they played the event. Now the British, we're going to do an assault. I'm going to do an assault, okay? So up to 3 spaces with troops and Irgun pieces. I have several of those. Remove 1 active Irgun piece per 2 troops. May remove underground cells by spending intel chits. I don't have any. Removes arm. They don't have any arms caches. So we're not going to gain any political will. We've got to alternate between prison and available in prison. So only 1 is going to go to prison. That's going to take this guy out. That's going to take this guy out. He'll go to prison. And that's going to take this guy out and he'll go to available. So now they're down to 2 cells on the board. So they're in rough shape right now. And that was a op. And then for the special activity, since we did an assault, we could do mass detention. But they don't have anybody in the city, so we're not going to do a special action. We're just going to move on to the next card. Road mines. Armored cars. Patrol may remove cells in up to 2 selected spaces. For the British, Irgun capability early IEDs. When patrol moves police to any space with a sabotage marker, remove 1 police to available on a roll of 1 to 3. So the Irgun are not going to use that event. They are going to go full event. I forgot to move those back. Did it just then. All right, so it's kind of important to recruit. We're down to 3 cards. We're going to recruit. So we're going to recruit, place cells up to 3 spaces without curfew markers. So all 3 cities have curfew markers. So we can't recruit in the cities. So we're going to place up to 2 cells in spaces with or adjacent to arm caches. We don't have any of those. Or 1 cell in cities. Oh, I guess we can't do that. Well, that stinks. So let's do this. Let's do a limited op so that we can double up and hope that the next card's not the propaganda card. Limited op, and we're going to take an arms cache. So we're going to rob. Add arms caches up to 3 districts. We're doing 1. In each selected space, roll a die, and if the roll is greater than 2, place an arms cache. Activate 1 underground cell if there are any police in the space. So let's do it. We'll do it in Gaza, okay? So let's roll. It's got to be more than a 2, and it's a 3. So they did get it. So that lets them have a... So now we can do recruit on our next turn. So for the British, what do we want to do for the British? We're going to do a... we're going to do a deploy. So we're going to place police and reposition troops. All right, so we will place police. We're going to place 1 here in Gaza and 1 here in Lydda. Well, you know what? No, we'll put it in Jerusalem. And then we're going to reposition our troops. We'll take these 2 from Jerusalem and move them to Gaza. And since we've done a deploy, we can do a restore or negotiate. So we are going to do a restore. So 1 space with troops, police, and no Irgun, Jerusalem. Remove any curfew or and sabotage then flip any terror to the sabotage side. So we're going to remove the curfew in Jerusalem, and we're going to flip these to sabotage, which probably will result in the British winning now, I think, unless this isn't a... So that was a full op and special. So we're going to go back. They get to go first, the Irgun. Roy Farron, undercover police. Remove 1 cell to available from each up to 3 spaces with police. Controversial killing. Remove 2 police to available. Lower political will by 1. Irgun are not going to use that event. They will go ops and special activity. They are going to recruit. Up to 3 spaces without curfew markers. Place up to 2 spaces in 2 cells in spaces with or adjacent to arms caches, or 1 cells in cities without or not adjacent to arms caches. So we can put 1 in Jerusalem, so we will. And then we can put 2 in any that are adjacent to this one because it has a cache. So we're going to put 2 there. And we'll put for our 3rd space, we'll put it in, let's put them in Jerusalem district. So that's their move. Now the British, they can remove one cell to available. Oh, so they can undo some of the moves that Irgun just did, which, you know, what are you going to do? So they're going to use the event here to remove 1 cell to available from each of up to 3 spaces with police. So we have police here and here, so they're going to remove 1 cell from each of these. And that will, that was an event, so they're going to reset, and the British will go first. And there's only 2 cards left. And it looks like the last card is the propaganda card. So this is Bevingrad's fortified bases, terror places, max 1 terror marker. British capability, isolated from population. If intel chit not used, search in cities requires 4 cubes to activate a cell. So the British will not play that event. They will do this, and they're going to play again. They will play deploy, even though they don't have any police to move. We can move troops around. So we will move 1 of these. Let's move them to, we'll put 1 on here. And we'll move 1 from Samaria and put him here. I think, oh wait, we can only go to 1 spot, I think. So we'll have to put them both. We'll put them both on this railway. Okay, so, and then with that, we can do another restore, which allows us to do 1 space with troops, police, and no Irgun. Remove any curfew and sabotage markers. So guess what? We're going to remove these 2. And that is their turn. So now the Irgun, they're going to need to do basically some sabotage, I guess. And the only places that they can do it are, well, they have 3. 1, 2, 3. So they're going to go for it. We're going sabotage to see if we can get that political will lowered a little bit. So we'll do our roll here. Oh, actually, this is only 1. Only 1 gets activated. We'll start in Jerusalem district. Roll the 4. They get a sabotage. And we'll do Lydda. Get a 2. No sabotage. And then Galilee. Get a 6. Get a sabotage. All right. Well, that was a limited... yeah, I screwed that up. They're only allowed to do 1. So we'll give them Jerusalem, and these 2 we'll just take away because I screwed that up. I have it in my head. Oh, it's 3. No, it's 1. And they don't get a bonus because the Haganah track is on 3. So, hence, oh, there's a sabotage in Tel Aviv. I totally forgot about that. So they now have 2 sabotage on the map. And the British now, we know this card is the propaganda card, so it is time to finish. Oh, shoot, assault and mass detention. I forgot. I didn't do this right. Some of those should have gone here. Ultimately, probably doesn't matter because they have 2 in there anyway. But this is our last propaganda round. So this is the final piece here. So lower political will by 1 for each sabotage marker in districts. We have 1. So that's -1. 2 for each railway, there are none, and 2 for each in cities. So that's 1 there. So that's a -3. -3, then increased by 2 if no railways. So that's now -1. And by 1 for each city. There are 2 cities without them, so that's a +1. And yeah, that's it. So if this is the final propaganda card, determine final victory. So this is the last card. So the will is at 11, okay? So basically, victory is determined by the level of British political will. British political will is measured on the edge track and can range from 0 to 20. All right, so if Irgun has not won, Irgun wins if British political will is at 0. It's not. If Irgun has not won at the end of the political will phase of the final propaganda round, the game ends in a British victory. So the British have won. Largely because Irgun's rolls were awful. And maybe because I suck. I'm willing to accept that possibility, or even likelihood. But in general, I think the main reason they did so poorly is that they were not able to get their sabotage actions to work correctly. So yeah, that is going to wrap it up. So this was a fairly long video. I appreciate you guys sticking it out and watching. Hopefully, if you have watched this long, you did get something out of it and see that the game is playable solitaire. You just have to play both sides to the best of your ability. But yeah, that is going to do it. So thanks as always for watching. Please consider liking, sharing, and/or subscribing. That would be much appreciated. But even if you don't, I do appreciate you guys taking your time to watch, and hope that you'll come back and watch something else. So yeah, that will wrap it up for me. My name is Joe. This has been Hexed Encountered, and until next time, happy gaming.